Good afternoon, everybody. Or morning. Some of y'all are in the morning still, depending on where you're located. Good day. And just say good day. I'm super excited that y'all are here. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Okay, if my volume is okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yay, wonderful. Super excited about that. Also, as we're getting ready to get started and jump into the webinar, let me know where y'all are from in the chat, and also let me know how many weeks you are. I think that it's always really fun to see who connects after these webinars, or just is able to kind of relate to other people because y'all are in the same stage of your pregnancies. So put it in the chat so I know exactly where you're from, how many weeks we are. Indiana, hey, I'm from Indiana. I don't live in Indiana anymore, but I was born there. 19 weeks, Denise, congratulations. Abby from the UK, 38 plus 2. We are close, girl. Our due dates are close. I am 38 plus 3, I think. So right there, we're in the final stretch. Charlotte, Brianna, you're from Charlotte, 26 weeks, 39 weeks. Houston, 28 weeks, 22 weeks. Okay, y'all. Second and third trimester. Okay. Some of y'all are like knocking on the door, gonna meet baby any day now. And some of y'all, Cape Town, South Africa. Hey, Don. 34 weeks. Super exciting. 40 plus 4, Misha. You are right there, girl. You are right there. And Laura, 39 weeks today. Congratulations. All right, y'all. I'm super excited to jump in and share some of my secrets with y'all today, because I have not done a webinar in quite some time. And so I'm excited that I was able to fit this in before baby decided to come. Because, you know, babies will come when they decide to come. And so I'm excited that he has not come yet so that I could do this with you guys. And I'm super excited to share all this information with you. I will be sharing my screen now. Y'all still feel free to like put any questions that you have in the chat, but we're gonna go ahead and start going into why you're here, which is because you want to overcome your fears and anxieties when it comes to giving birth. Now, I want to know, I'm very curious for those of you who are here who may be carrying some level of fear with you at this point, what are the fears that you have? What are some of the things that you are currently struggling with, fearful of, anxious about when it comes to birth? Put that in the chat so I can kind of get an idea of some of the things that we may be dealing with, because I'm sure most of you will realize that you're not the only person dealing with some of these fears and anxieties. It's very, very normal, very common. Doesn't mean we want to stay there, of course, but it is very normal and common to be experiencing some of these things. So I just want to kind of see where we're at. I see a lot of people talking about pain, the unknown, the aftermath, pain, okay, being in labor for too long, pain, how long it lasts, okay, the length, fibroids. I've definitely supported mamas with fibroids before, so we can definitely talk about that. Maternal mortality, that is totally real. First-time mom and handling things not going well or how it should go, having a C-section. Okay, got it. All right, this is helpful. Hemorrhaging complications. Okay, This is really, really helpful. Okay, y'all. Well, we're going to try to address as many of these as possible. I may not get into all of the specifics because each of what you've shared is very different and would have a different response in terms of how to overcome that. But for everything that you guys have all just mentioned, this is all stuff that I do talk about in my program in greater detail so that these fears do not actually have to have control over you. So let's go ahead and jump in. And of course, continue to put things in the chat as questions come up. I will try to answer them as they come up, but I will have a Q&A section at the end. So make sure you stick around until the end so that we can actually talk about some of your questions in detail and allow me to give you a little bit more of like a personalized response. So y'all are here because we are trying to overcome fear and anxiety for a calm and confident birth. And if you're anything like me, you probably have dealt with some level of fear or anxiety when it comes to giving birth. And that is completely normal, completely common. But again, one of the things that you'll learn after going through some of this material with me today is that if we're going to be calm and confident, the fear and anxiety kind of have to go. And we can work through that. It's very easy to work through that, but it does take time and it does take work. And if you're willing to do that work, you will be very, very surprised at how well you will labor. So let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to jump in just like right away to the strategy because that's why y'all are here. I want to walk you through today the same things that I talk about in my program, the same things that help me share all of the testimonials and birth stories that you've probably read or seen on my page or from some of the other women who have either been my doula clients or been in this program. What are they doing? How are these people having such positive birth experiences? And if you're anything like me, before I understood that this was even possible, I thought the people who had quote unquote pain-free births or super positive experiences, or were the people who had these pictures and they were smiling in labor, I'm like, they are unicorns. Like I used to call one of my friends a unicorn until I experienced it myself. And I did so many of the things that she kind of encouraged me to do alongside of how I was learning about natural birth from natural birth experts, from my doula and everybody who was around me, really supporting and empowering me to get to that place and what it was going to take for me to get to that place and have a similar experience. And what I started to realize was that actually they're not unicorns. They just trust their bodies. They just know how this process works and have embraced the process and haven't allowed some of the negative outside energy to impact their experience. So we're going to talk about the strategy that I've called the 5 C's. These 5 C's are what we're going to talk through in detail today. What will help you get to the place that you need to be so that you can have a very calm and confident experience. So what is our strategy? First, we need to understand what your choices are, okay? The first C is choices. After that, we are going to learn how to be in control of your birth, because once you understand your choices, that will give you a lot more flexibility to feel in control of your birth. So the second C is control. When you are in control of your birth, that will allow you to have more confidence in your body. So control, when we feel in control, and you can think about this in life, when you feel really in control about something, that does tend to make you more confident about what it is that you're doing. And so if we want confidence in our body, it's going to be important that we feel like we have control over the experience. And when we have confidence in our body, that's going to help us create a very calm and peaceful experience, which is why you're here. You want to be confident and calm, but you can't be calm if you're not confident, right? And you can't be confident if you don't have control. And then once you create that calm and peaceful experience or environment, that is going to help you achieve a comfortable birth. So those are the 5 C's: choices, control, confidence, calm, and comfortable. Those are the things that we're going to go through and dig into a little bit deeper. So I want to just be very clear here. You need to, if you're going to get the most out of this, you need to turn off all distractions. Put Instagram down, put TikTok down. If you're working right now, you may not be able to completely step away from work, but try to do what you can to really hone in on this, because your presence here will directly relate to your preparation, okay? That is for this webinar, that is for my program, that is for whatever it is that you're doing. The more you are present, the easier you will get into this level of preparation that you actually need and desire to get where you want to go. Now, who are you? I want to figure out who we have on this call right now, because most of us, this is a new journey. Most of y'all are first-time mamas, and that's, the beginning of this new experience for you that you've never done before. And when we begin in our pregnancy journey, usually how we start off is shaped by the family, the friends, the social media pages, and the stories around us. So are you in this place? You may not be screaming or sweating right now, but this is kind of how you're picturing birth. You're picturing it very loud and very painful and very overwhelming and very out of control. Or are you more on the side of my working mamas? This is one of my mamas, Dominique. She was a twin mama, or she is a twin mama. And this was her in labor, 6-7 centimeters, no epidural, having the best time of her life, dancing to Beyonce. This is what I want you guys to be at. You may not be there right now, and that's completely fine. But where are we right now? Are you kind of in this place where you're a little bit overwhelmed, anxious, fearful, or are you at a place where you feel very calm about that? And I'm assuming if you feel very calm and peaceful, you probably wouldn't be on this webinar right now. But let me know in the chat, where are you? Are you in the category of feeling a little bit overwhelmed and anxious, or do you feel very good and confident and calm about going into the birth that you desire to have? Let me know in the chat. Most mamas face. Okay, I appreciate y'all for being honest. Thank you, Brianna. Somewhere in the middle. Okay, that's good. In between. Good, good. And that's good. And it's normal. Okay, I want to remind you that it is normal. These are, when I share these stories over here, these are all the working mamas, the mamas who I've been able to support, who've gone through this program. And really, it's an opportunity for me to show you guys that it's possible. It is not to make anyone feel any type of way, but what I have found is that the more we expose ourselves to the realities that this is possible, the more likely you are to get yourself there as well. So let's go into what this is about and how we're going to work through this whole 5C process. So you're in the right place, and I want you to get your pencils and your notes ready if you are scared, and this is the place where you could be right now. You're scared of giving birth because of what you've heard or seen, but you want something greater. You desire to have a beautiful and positive birth experience, but don't know where to start. I hear this a lot. And trust me when I say that I was there too. I did not know where to start. I knew I wanted to have a very positive birth experience, but like there was so much information out there that I didn't actually know how to start sifting through it. And you're in the right place if you need guidance to ensure that you and your partner are prepared to advocate for yourselves. Because listen, this is not just your experience. Whether your partner is going to be present or you have a support person, whether that be a doula, a parent, a friend, somebody else who's going to be there, it's going to be important that both of you are prepared. Because if I'm just talking to you, or if you're the one that's doing all the information and you become the keeper of all of the knowledge, that's not super effective for when you're in labor, because somebody else has to be supporting you through that. And you should not be the coach for yourself and for somebody else when you should just be connecting with your body and your baby. And this was my experience the first time around. I was the keeper of all the knowledge. My husband did attend class with me, but he was very bored and was watching college football on his phone. And he did not have the information that he needed. And so he was kind of relying on me to say, okay, well, what do you want in this moment? How can I support you? And at that moment, I'm like, I don't know, but whatever you're doing, it's not enough. So it's really important that if you are trying to have this experience, that both of you are invested in preparing yourselves to not be afraid, to desire the experience, that you both can support each other in, and to make sure that you are prepared with the education and information to advocate for yourselves. And then lastly, you want to trust your body to do what it was designed to do. Most of you, if you followed me for any period of time, you know that this is something that I harp on all of the time. Your body was designed to do this. And we're actually going to watch some creatures give birth so that you can actually see what birth is supposed to look like and how our bodies were all designed to do this very naturally. But unfortunately, in our society, social media, and the stories that we hear, we're oftentimes being told the complete opposite. And so we have to also learn, if we're going to go through the process of these 5 C's, how to learn how to trust our bodies to do what it was designed to do. Now, I want to also be very transparent about this part too. it might be a good idea for you to log off right now if some of these things are true for you. And I want you to be honest with yourself, because you should understand where you're at in the process and figure out if this is going to actually help you or if this is going to go in one ear and out the other. So you should probably log off, and this is not the webinar for you, if you believe the phrase, it's going to be what it's going to be about birth. That's not something that I will ever teach you. Yes, things will happen the way that they're going to happen, but it's not without you having control over them. 2, you're an information junkie, but you don't take action. If you don't take action, none of this is going to mean anything to you. It's just going to sound like a really good webinar that you just wasted an hour of your time on, because if you're not going to implement any of the things that we talk about here, then you're not going to move from where you're at. You've allowed yourself to believe that birth is scary, painful, and miserable based on other people's experiences. Listen, if your experience or your perception of birth is all shaped by the people's stories around you, it's not going to be helpful for you to be here, because you've allowed that to become the narrative of what birth looks and feels like for you, versus understanding there's a completely different way of doing things and it doesn't have to be that way. You should probably leave this webinar if you think that this experience is only possible outside of the hospital. Yes, I had an out-of-hospital birth. Yes, I prefer out-of-hospital births for myself, but I've had so many women and clients who've had such amazing experiences in the hospital and are able to implement a lot of this strategy in the hospital. So I don't want you to think that just because you're in a hospital setting or statistics are what they are, that you can't have this sort of experience, because that is absolutely untrue. And then lastly, you should probably leave this webinar if you get mad when I give you 45 minutes of strategy that I teach all of my clients. It has helped me. It has helped the hundreds of mamas who have had the same experience as me, but then complain when I make you an offer for an exclusive opportunity to work with me. So if that's not something that you are willing to kind of see through, then this is probably not going to be the webinar for you. Now, again, I did mention stay till the end so that I can answer all of your questions. But before we dive in, here's a little history on what qualifies me to share this information with such confidence. It's not like me just talking out loud. These are real things that happened to me and that are actually things that have been effective for me. So if you don't know my story, I'll just go through it really quickly. I became pregnant in 2017 with our first son, and I did all the things that I thought I needed to do to make sure that I was prepared. I was reading all the apps. I knew what size my baby was. I knew what fruit or vegetable he was at that time. I read all the blogs, ensuring that I was fit and I was healthy. I worked out every day so I could have a lot of endurance for labor. I didn't really focus a lot on formal education because, to be very honest, I just thought I could do it on my own. And I was like, I'm smart. I know how to research and I'll just do this on my own. I mean, Google gives you everything, right? There's no way that I couldn't get what I needed to get to prepare me for a natural birth just by doing the Googling that I needed to do based on what I was seeing on social media and what I was reading in my app, because, right, it couldn't be that complicated, right? Well, yes and no. When I went into labor, I quickly realized that the research that I had done provided me with no tools, no strategy to have a calm and confident natural birth, which is what I envisioned for myself. Yes, I had endurance. Yes, I was laboring unmedicated for about 18 hours, but it was a lot of work with not a lot of progress because I was not being very intentional. My husband didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know how to advocate for ourselves. My husband didn't know how to advocate for me or remain confident or labor effectively because things changed so quickly. These are really I only have about 2 or 3 pictures from my entire labor experience the first time around, because that was how uneducated and unprepared we were. We left that experience with a lot of birth trauma. Our story changed very quickly. It went from a natural unmedicated birth that started via Pitocin, didn't know anything about that, started via Pitocin, and then 18 hours in, decided to get an epidural, and baby did not respond well to the epidural. And from there, about 2 hours later, had an emergency C-section, which, when you learn more about my story in the program, I talk about how that probably was not medically necessary, but one way or the other, we didn't know what we didn't know. So we couldn't advocate for whether or not this was the right decision for us, because we just went with whatever the people told us, because that was all we knew. We did leave that experience with a lot of birth trauma, unanswered questions, fear, and frustration about why things happened the way that they did, because they did switch very quickly. And we were so unprepared for that. We were making decisions out of fear and not facts. I felt like my body had failed me, and I felt like I had failed myself because I thought that I was prepared and I really wasn't. I don't really understand, and didn't understand at that time, how I could be so out of control so quickly about an experience that I was so excited about, because I was very excited. I was very confident going into the experience, but I had no evidence. I had no education to actually back up my excitement or actually support me through that moment. And the worst part about it was wishing we had prepared differently at that time. But when you're in the moment, it's at that point, I didn't have anything else to do but just rely on myself and rely on my husband. And I wish that my husband could have spoke up for me and better supported me, but he didn't know, and I didn't know how to tell him, because neither one of us were prepared. And that experience caused me to wish that I could have entered into the postpartum in a better space, because that did set the tone for how we entered into our postpartum experience, because we were super unprepared and things changed so quickly that we had to adjust to after having our baby, that it really did impact the way that we moved into the postpartum. We knew that it didn't have to be like that, but we didn't have any answers as to why. And when we got pregnant again a year later, we decided that we had to completely change our approach. We decided that if we were going to have a redemptive and positive birth experience, we needed to learn from people who were the experts in that area. We were not the experts, clearly, in natural birth. We had never done this before, so we couldn't really expect that we were going to be able to do what our body, or my body, was designed to do if I didn't actually know how to labor the way that my body needed to labor. We also realized that we had to heal from a lot of our own fears. Just because I was the only one giving birth did not mean that that experience did not impact my husband. We both had to overcome our fears and our trauma from our first birth experience, which, if you're a first-time mama, you don't have to have a traumatic birth experience to be dealing with birth trauma. It could be the stories that you've been hearing. It could be the people around you who didn't have positive birth experiences. And this is the type of experience that you anticipate having. The more we actually started to think through this, we started to realize that we needed to approach this differently. And so within the first month, we found out we were expecting, we were able to make sense of the previous birth experiences. Those people that were around us, our midwife, our doula, our educators, the natural birth folks around us, helped us make sense of our previous birth. We started taking natural birthing classes, we hired natural birthing experts, and we started to actually do the work. And we realized, like, we're not going to just like do the bare minimum like we did last time. We realized it was not in our best interest to pretend like we did last time, that we were these experts and knew how to do natural birth, because we'd never done it before. And the more educated we became, the more confident we were to do it. And funny enough, I actually wanted to have a home birth because I wanted to kind of move as far away from my experience as I was, and that was a healing opportunity for me. But my husband was not comfortable with the home birth. And so for many of you, and a lot of the mamas who I've talked to, they want to have a home birth, or you want to have a home birth, but your partner may not be super comfortable with that. So you guys are trying to figure out how to meet in the middle. We ended up meeting in the middle at a birth center, and that was where I gave birth to my second child. By the end of our pregnancy, my husband turned to me when we were sitting in one of our birth classes, and he was like, I think we should probably just do a home birth. And I was like, wait, what? What are you talking about? Are you sure? Because I had already given up that idea, because I felt like the birth center was the happiest medium for both of us, because he still had some levels of fear based on the first experience. But it was crazy to see how transformed he became when he started to learn things, and how he began to trust the process and trust my body and know how to fully support me the best, to the point where he was encouraging the home birth. But by that point, we had already made all of our decisions, paid all of our money, and we just decided to stick with our birth center, which was still amazing and very beautiful. But this is the power of education, especially for our partners. And so when we did finally go into labor at 41 weeks, we were ecstatic and confident. Our labor was much shorter, easier, euphoric, and fearless. Really, at the end of the day, we were not afraid of anything that was ahead of us. And I know that this is what you want. If this is what you want, if this is the kind of empowering birth experience that you want the first time around, tell me in the chat, say, yes, this is what I want, or no, this is actually not what I'm looking for. Let me know if that's something that you guys desire out of this. Okay, yes, I love it. I love that. Well, look, I'm about to help y'all get there, okay? So I've experienced it all. I have tried to figure it all on my own. I experienced the traumatic birth story because I will never say that those things aren't real. Traumatic birth stories and birth trauma are real. And I was one of those people who experienced it. I then overcame my fears. I learned how to trust my body in a taboo birth sort of way because VBACs, which is a vaginal birth after cesarean, most people think that those are very dangerous. They think that they're very unsafe and that you should not do them. I became educated on my options. I had an educated and supportive partner the second time around. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing the strategies and the tools that have helped me and my clients have such beautiful birth experiences. And this is what we're going to talk about in this webinar, the secrets that have allowed me to write my own birth story and the secrets and the tips that are going to help you write your own birth story. I have experienced it all, y'all. I've been in a hospital setting. I've been out of a hospital setting. I've had the C-section. I've had the epidural. I've had the induction. And I've also had a very unmedicated, natural vaginal birth with no interventions. I know what I'm talking about, and I've experienced it firsthand. And I know from my experience how to help you prevent yourself from going down the same path that I did. And now I get to help other families do it for the first time. Amanda is one of my clients. I actually just posted a video of her recently on my Instagram about what a physiologic birth looks like. And this is what she had to say. I've done 2 versions of this course, and let me tell you how extensive and in-depth it is. Chanel covers any and every topic at length, but in a digestible manner with the research and evidence to back up whatever decision you decide. Because the reality is, just because I have a certain birth or the people that I'm posting about have certain births does not mean that that's the type of birth that you're preparing for, and it doesn't have to be. But you do need to have confidence and be comfortable and calm for the type of birthing experience that you want. If you're lucky enough to have her at your birth, which I was at her birth for her second baby, she's 100% in your corner and helping you advocate for you. Valerie is currently in the program right now. She has not had her baby yet, unless she had her baby like within the last 2 days. She had her 34-week appointment, and she said she's so thankful for the course and everything that she's learned and been taught to consider. Her midwife was running about 30 to 40 minutes behind, and it felt like, and she was ready to actually prepare and present her birth plan. She almost put it off until the next appointment because she was nervous she'd be rushed through it, but reminded herself that this is her birth and her plan and desires matter. So she's glad the confidence kicked in, because the great discussion that her and her midwife had was wonderful, and she didn't rush her one bit and was very supportive of the entire experience. It allowed her to feel supported and provide a lot of thorough context into what to expect and have that conversation with her provider. She left with her husband feeling empowered and more at peace about the journey to come, and reassured that she had a great provider on her team, because again, your provider is also another person on your birth team, and those people have to be vetted just like you would vet a doula. So thank you for all of the knowledge shared. This mama talked about how she took the course, and because of all the information that she was provided, she was able to have an unmedicated delivery like she wanted. She said she may have learned too much because she was in denial that she was in labor and she didn't need a birth doula. Tamisha just had her baby recently, and she said that she was so in shock because she was laboring at home, but everything got like pushed forward really, really fast, because when she got to the hospital, because again, she was in denial that she was in labor, she got to the hospital not realizing that she was already complete, which means 10 centimeters. And so she pushed 4 times, had her baby. Water broke at 5 a.m. at home. She had her baby by 8:45 a.m. in the hospital. She said, crazy experience, but I'm so happy she's here and I'm ready to do it all again. This mama also talked about, I took your course as well and thought I was in fake labor, labored at home for 11 hours. It wasn't until we were in 8 hours in that I realized that baby was on the way, got to the hospital fully dilated and ready to push. She was out in 15 minutes. My doula and midwife were impressed. So these are the things that are possible, okay? This is, we call her MG. She's one of our mamas in the program. You might have seen me post about her a few times, but she said she'll be forever grateful for the reasons that she took this program because it was a huge part of why she felt so prepared. And her birth team was also being able to be really supportive of her because she knew exactly what she wanted and how she needed them to support her based on how she was educated. So if you're ready to do the same, give me a ready to work in the chat. By going through these proven strategies and frameworks at your fingertips, imagine what could your birth look like? Could this be your story? Could I be eventually sharing your screenshot of your birthing experience in the next webinar that I do? Because you have also been able to implement some of these strategies. So if you are ready to work, you are ready to learn this process, put it in the chat so I know that you are ready to go. All right. I love it. I love it. All right, y'all, let's jump in. Consider this your fast pass to getting to the birth that you want, especially for my 40+4s and my 39 weekers. Okay, step one, we got to understand our choices. Okay, so we're going to the first seat. Step one is understanding your choices. You need to become educated on your rights and your options so that you can make an informed decision. If you do not know your choices, if you do not know your options, it's going to be very hard for you to make an informed decision. You're going to be making emotional decisions, which are not evidence-based. The decisions that you make and the choices that you make, which are really just you advocating for yourself, have to and should come from a mixture of evidence and emotion. Okay, this picture right here is a picture of some of my virtual clients. This is Courtney and this is Patrick. This is their room, how they set their room up for the birthing experience. But the reason that I am showcasing them in this part of understanding your choices and really all about advocacy is because they knew what their options were. They were giving birth in a hospital with a team that they were not sure of would deliver their baby. The insurance that they had did not allow them to know which provider was going to be on call, and it most likely wasn't going to be the provider that they had been working with. And so it was even more important for them to understand their choices and their rights because they had no idea who was going to walk into the room when they got to the hospital. And Patrick was amazing as a partner because what he knew and what he'd studied through this program allowed him to be able to speak up for his wife in those moments so that she could stay in her birth zone. And they did an amazing job. He literally was able to read through the nonsense that the provider was trying to convince them of to do something that they were completely against, which was cervical exams. And so he was educated enough to be able to read through some of the coercion that was happening and advocate for his wife to say, we're not going to do that right now. So I want to play a game to see, do y'all even know your rights? Because if you don't know your rights, it's going to be really hard for you to advocate for yourself. So we're going to play a little game real quick. It's called Truth or Myth. I want you to put in the chat if you think it's a truth, if you think what I'm saying is truth, or if you think that what I am saying is a myth, all right? First thing, truth or myth, you have to get vaginal exams throughout labor so the staff know how dilated you are. Truth or myth? Okay, y'all educated. All right, myth, myth, myth. Yes, that is a myth. You do not have to get vaginal exams. I guess I kind of gave it away right now, didn't I? With that story, but that's correct. It is a myth. You do not have to get vaginal exams throughout labor. You may be pressured to get vaginal exams throughout labor, and there may be some reasons that may require you or pressure you to do cervical exams if you are induced in any sort of way. Usually cervical exams are more pressured in those situations, but if those things are not true, you absolutely do not have to get vaginal exams throughout labor because how dilated you are doesn't actually matter. Truth or myth? You do not have the right to decide whether your placenta or infant may be a part of a research study. Truth or myth? Good job. Myth. So you do have the right to decide whether your placenta or infant may be a part of a research study. The reason that I bring this up is because for women who do not choose to take their placentas home or donate them or encapsulate them, sometimes these placentas, because they are so extremely valuable for health purposes, for other diseases, cancers, and things that other people may be dealing with, sometimes your placenta may become a part of a research study. So if you're not very clear about whether or not that was something that you want to be true, I have seen that placentas will eventually be taken, used for research, or even sold for $10, $15, $20,000 for people to be able to use for other health related conditions. So if that's not something that you are comfortable with, you need to be very clear about that on your birth plan. If you don't care and you want to donate it for health reasons to be able to support other people, that will usually be given as an option for you in the hospital. If you're not going to be taking it home or encapsulating it or putting it into a tincture, whatever it is that you decide to do. But if that's something that you're not comfortable with, you have to make sure that you are very vocal about that. Truth or myth? Mama can refuse any medical intervention suggested, regardless if it puts the fetus at risk. Truth or myth? Good. Good, y'all. Good job. Yes, this is true. You can refuse any medical intervention. You can refuse an IV, you can refuse a C-section, you can refuse medication, you can refuse anything that is offered to you, even if it puts your baby at risk. That is a decision that you have the power over. So for example, if somebody comes in and they're saying, okay, we think that you should go ahead and move forward with a C-section, but you're educated enough so you start to ask the right questions and you realize that whatever they're suggesting to you is not a medical reason for a C-section, you can absolutely refuse that. Even if they try to push something on you or make you scared that something could happen bad to your baby if you don't move forward with a C-section. Another example is I had another mama who went into labor at 36 weeks and she was getting pressured to give baby a steroid shot to make sure that baby's lungs were fully developed. But that was not something that she was comfortable with. She was very comfortable and confident that her baby was going to be okay and did not want to have the steroid shot taken for her baby. And if baby had any sort of respiratory or lung issues, that they would take care of that and deal with it when baby was born. The number of people that continue to come in her room and coerce her and make her feel bad that she was doing something detrimental to her baby by just only really sharing the risks associated with not doing the steroid shot was making her feel and dad feel very guilty almost about their decision. They stuck to their guns. They did not go forward with the steroid shot because that wasn't something that they were comfortable with. Baby was born completely fine, about 7 or 8 pounds, I think, at 36 weeks, no respiratory issues, no lung issues, nothing. It was their intuition and their gut and their evidence that helped them make that decision confidently. But they still were being faced with the risks that were associated with it, which of course you always want to know your risks, but you also need to be able to trust your gut and your intuition on the decision that you're being, that the decision that you're making. And you have the right, even if that does put your baby in danger, you're the one that has to make that decision. Truth or myth? Mama and baby must separate if mama is positive for COVID. What do you think? Good job, y'all. Yes, that is a myth. But not everybody abides by that truth. The World Health Organization and the APA have actually said that if mama tests positive for COVID in labor, there still should be no reason to separate mama and baby, because what's best for mama and baby, both for developmental reasons and for mental and physical recovery reasons, and for what's best for baby, is that baby and mama should be skin to skin as much as possible after delivery, even if you test positive for COVID. What we need to be very sure of is that, of course, we're taking our own safety precautions to make sure that we're not exposing baby. So that may mean we wear a mask, or that may mean we're going to minimize kissing our baby until we're completely over it. But one of the things that a lot of people get scared about is what happens if I want to breastfeed? Is that going to pass the virus to my baby? No. COVID is not passed through breast milk. COVID is passed through airborne sort of experiences like we see right now, but has nothing to do with breastfeeding, being skin to skin with your baby. It's going to be important for your baby's immune system to be built up in the beginning. And that happens through breastfeeding and through skin to skin. So I always tell my clients, there should be no place that your baby goes, even if baby has to go to the NICU, there should be no place that your baby goes that you or your partner are not with them. That is your baby. Everything needs to be done in room unless baby has to go to the NICU. And at that point, you should probably try to attend with whatever provider is taking your baby to wherever they're taking them, because that is your child and your baby should not be out of your sight unless there's a true medical reason for them to be. So knowing your choices is going to put you in control, right? Remember, the first C is choices. When we have our choices and we know our choices, that is going to allow us to lead into feeling in control. You'll never be in control of something that you don't know anything about. So knowing your rights and options in pregnancy, birth, and postpartum, meaning you can start implementing and practicing this stuff now, gives you the education and information that you need to make informed decisions. And as much as birth is a spiritual and emotional experience, our decisions should be more evidence-based than they are emotionally based. They have to work together, but you need to be making your decisions based off of evidence and not just solely emotion, because that is not an informed decision. That is an ignorant decision. That is an emotional decision. So learning your birth options and rights is one of the most vital pieces of preparation you can do for yourself. This is the secret to women having the most beautiful birth experience, even if something changes. And having those choices and preferences for how you would respond to different situations will take you from being anxious and overwhelmed to feeling very confident and calm going into labor, because you know what your rights are, you know what your options are, and it doesn't make it feel so unexpected or unknown, like a lot of you have mentioned, being fearful of. So what does a choice look like? What is implementing your choices, advocating for yourself, making informed decisions? What does this look like in action? One of the mamas who took this course, her name is Brittany. She sent me this email after she had her baby, and she said, I wanted to thank you so much for your doula services, gave birth to my healthy baby boy, Josiah. Not only was I fully prepared for a natural unmedicated birth, my partner was also prepared to support and advocate for my desires. She talked about different comfort measures that she used. And then she said, knowing my rights helped me reject an induction that was pushed on me by my doctor. I went 10 days past my due date, 41 plus 3, but I was determined to let my baby boy choose his birthday. The only intervention I ended up consenting to, look at what she said, consenting to. You provide the informed consent. Nobody can tell you what to do. You have to be the one to provide consent. And your providers are supposed to provide you with informed consent. So she only consented to allowing them to break her water. She had been in labor for 21 hours, unmedicated, dilating all the way to 10 centimeters with her water still intact. Sometimes this happens, sometimes it doesn't. Most times your baby can break their waters, but either way, like, you kind of make that decision for yourself. So at 12 a.m., doctor broke my water. Oh, the warm gush was heaven. Soon after I began pushing, I specifically put on my birth plan that I would not push on my back. And then she goes on to talk about how she pushed and ended up making the decision that after trying different positions, that being on her back was the most effective for her at that moment. And so that's what she did. She advocated for her golden hour, delayed cord clamping, and ownership of her placenta. So again, thank you so much for preparing me for the natural, pleasurable birth of my dreams. I don't know how you guys feel, but I know that if this was me reading this before I had my second baby, I would feel like really confused. She just said pleasurable birth. You don't hear that very often, but this is what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be pleasurable. It's supposed to be enjoyable. Now, step two, being in control. Remember, our choices put us in control. So our step 2 is learning how to be in control of your experience. Research shows that being educated, knowing your choices leads to an overall more positive and satisfying birth experience because the woman feels more in control. So think about your life right now. When you do feel in control of something, it definitely most likely will give you a much more positive experience about that because you get to call the shots. That should be the same exact thing that happens when you're in birth. This is Lisa. I have a interview with her on my YouTube channel. If you haven't checked it out, definitely make sure you check it out. They did not have a birth doula. They did have a midwife because her plan was to have a home birth. But her plan changed. She went into labor at 36 weeks. And because of that, she could not have a home birth because you have to be full term in order to have a home birth. But she was so educated and knew her choices and her rights that she felt very in control, even when she was transferred to give birth at the hospital. She still had a very positive birth experience. She had the natural unmedicated birth that she desired. Her husband knew exactly how to support her, and she had an overall beautiful birth. And that was because she knew her choices, she advocated for her rights, and she was in control of her experience, even though her environment changed. So the formula for being in control of your birth is evidence, like we just talked about, that's choices and rights, plus your intuition. These are the emotions. What is your gut telling you? Minus your fear, because if your fear starts to creep up in here, that's going to change what your intuition is telling you. You cannot confuse intuition and fear, okay? Your intuition is telling you one thing, and your fear will change what your intuition is telling you. So evidence plus intuition minus fear equals control or informed decision making. Nobody knows your body better than you. Okay. If I need to repeat that again, I will. I don't care what degree somebody has. Nobody knows your body better than you. So if you listen to it and trust it, it will give you the answers that you need. When we understand our choices, it does allow us to make informed decisions, and it gives us the power to be in control of the outcomes of our experiences. Fear and anxiety, which is something that a lot of us are probably dealing with right now or have dealt with. I know a lot of you said you're in between, so there may still be some level of fear or anxiety kind of creeping around. Those things will always live in places where knowledge is absent. So when we become educated, we can also become less fearful, because education and knowledge will remove fear and anxiety if you allow it to, because it doesn't seem so unknown. When we know about something, it's less scary for us. So how do we confidently make decisions that are best for us and help us remain in control? Well, the brain method, all right? The brain method is a method that I teach all of my clients to help them ask the right questions to make informed decisions. Because the reality is there may be things that you just don't know about. Maybe somebody brings something up and you're like, oh, I never learned about that, or I haven't heard about that. This is the first time I'm hearing about it. Well, that doesn't mean that you can't make an informed decision. It just means that you need to start asking questions, which you can obviously practice right now in pregnancy. You need to start asking the right questions so that you can get the right information that you need to make an informed decision. So BRAIN is an acronym, and each of the letters stands for something that we're going to go through, and it guides you with what questions you need to be asking to get the right evidence and information. So B stands for benefits. If somebody is suggesting something to you, you will say, what are the benefits of insert blank here? What are the benefits of Pitocin, or what are the benefits of breaking my water? Okay, what are the risks? R stands for risks. What are the risks associated with breaking my water or getting Pitocin? What are my alternatives? Because you usually always have another option. That might not be presented to you first, but you always, in most cases, have another option. Okay, so what are my alternatives, or what other options do I have? That's A. I stands for intuition. This is not a question that you ask, but this is where that intuition piece comes in. What is your gut telling you? You really have to learn how to connect with your gut so that you can make the right decisions for yourself. And then N is nothing. What happens if I do nothing at all? What happens if we just stay doing what we're doing right now? What would the outcome look like? And those are the questions that you're asking. Now, T, which is obviously not a part of brain, but time is going to be what you need to ask for next. Because when you gather all this information, and of course you need to make sure that you are feeling like you're receiving all of the information, because that is your provider or the nurse or whoever it is that's giving you the information. They are required to give you what you're asking for in terms of information. You do have the right to a second opinion if you need to ask someone else, but you should always ask for time to kind of process through with your birth team or your partner what you want to do with this information. So this is the formula to advocating, making decisions, and being in control over those decisions. And what happens when you use the brain method? Why does this even matter? So this is one of the mamas who also went through this program, but she was saying how she went to the hospital, had her baby, she was able to rest and labor the way that she wanted to. She got some IV pain meds, but she said, I couldn't have done this without your amazing course. My midwives were there, they delivered my baby, and they're pretty amazing and knowledgeable. Being informed really helped me make the decisions to deliver my baby on my side, since that's how I felt best. This is another mama who I was able to support. She said that this was something that she did something and she was not really confident that she could endure what she thought would be painful. And she was saying, you know, I'm hearing you, but like, I still might want to get an epidural. And that's not my decision as your support person, your doula, your educator. It's not my decision to make for you. It is my right and my responsibility to inform you of the benefits, risks, alternatives, options that you have when it comes to choosing the decisions that you're choosing. And so she said, long story short, I retained Chanel, or we started working together around 30 weeks. By the time she was ready to deliver, my daughter and I was so prepared that I labored at home for 14 hours with minimal discomfort. I had so many ways to labor comfortably, went to the hospital only once I noticed signs that Chanel taught me, and had my daughter 42 minutes later, completely natural, with Chanel just a text away. If you have the ability to invest in your birth, there's no one I would recommend more. Kendra was one of those people who mentally had a lot of blocks in her way. People who were telling her things about birth, being afraid of things, being afraid of pain. And she literally got to the hospital and had her baby 40 minutes later. She did an amazing job, and it was because she knew how to trust her body, and she knew how to advocate for her rights and know what was normal, what wasn't normal. This mama took the first version of this program, but she said, I still feel very supported in being my own advocate. This time around, because she was pregnant for a second time, the doctor has been pushing to schedule an induction literally the first hour on the day of my due date, and it doesn't sit right with me. I told her no, and that I'd like to wait and see if things progress. And she said, when I tell my family I said no to my doctor, they're also proud of me and a little surprised that it is possible for me to say no to a doctor who is seen as a person of power and unquestionable authority. My doctor is great, but this specific discussion required me to step up. And that's something that we all have to keep in mind and remember, that just because somebody has a degree or power, if you will, in the room, they still don't make the decisions. That is your job to make the decision. So keep those things in mind. It is extremely important for you to know your rights and know how to advocate for yourself. Now, step 3, having confidence, okay? Because if we're going to do what we know our bodies are designed to do, you have to have confidence in your body. You have to trust your body to do what it was designed to do. This is not just the ability to advocate for yourself, but it also requires you to be able to trust yourself. So we need to know that our bodies were designed to do something, and we need to trust that it can do it. When we feel more in control, which is where we just came from, that C was control. When we feel more in control, we can then have more confidence in our body. These things build on top of each other. When we have our choices, when we know our choices, that puts us in control. When we are in control, we will have more confidence. And this is one of my other clients who actually was a first-time mama, was giving birth in a hospital, ended up switching to a home birth, had her baby in 2 hours. No pain, no misery, all beauty, all joy. 2 hours, was extremely confident and trusting of her body, and allowed her body to do what it was designed to do. She didn't force it to do anything that it was not ready to do, and she was a patient with her body, but thankfully that was very quick. So birth takes a woman's, and this is a quote that I found online. I don't know who the author of this quote is, but I really liked it. And it says that birth takes a woman's deepest fears about herself and shows her that she is stronger than them. This could not be more true about when it comes to trusting your body. There can be a lot of things that can and will come up fear-wise, cause you to doubt. But the one thing about pregnancy and birth is that it will take you to a place that you didn't even know existed within yourself. And that was my experience the second time around. I had no idea that I was as strong as I was until I gave birth. And that is the exact same thing that I want for y'all. That is exactly what I believe can be true for you if you trust your body to do it. So we have to birth the way that our body was designed to give birth. And this is going to happen in a few different ways. We have to know that the way that we see birth is going to look and be very different than how the world sees birth. This is how a lot of people envision birth to happen and occur. That is not the way that we see birth. This is what birth should look like: very calm, peaceful, and relaxed. This is not what we're planning for, okay? So we have to birth the way that our bodies were designed to birth. And the best way that I can describe this to you is through watching animals give birth, because, well, our creator, and whether you are a believer or not, our creator has designed our bodies, animals and us, all mammals, to give birth very naturally, because that was how he designed our bodies to be. And so whether you believe in the same thing that I believe in, at the end of the day, animals are a perfect example of how our bodies can give birth if we allow it to. So I'm going to just preface this by, obviously you can see this picture. It is a little bit graphic. So if this is not something you're comfortable with, close your eyes, but we're going to just watch this for like a minute, so you guys can see what birth should look like. Now, of course, you're not going to be out in a field, most likely, but this is a perfect example of what it can and should look like. I want you guys to take note of some of the things that you're seeing here, because we're going to talk about what you're noticing about how these animals give birth. Notice their demeanor, notice their positions. I want you guys to keep all of those things in mind. Notice what that zebra did when baby was taken away. All right. What did you notice in the chat? Tell me, what did you notice about the animals giving birth? What did you notice about their environment, their demeanor, their position? Obviously, you didn't hear them because I had it on mute and there was music playing. But what did you guys notice about them? Yes, side lying, not being forced to push, secluded, upright positions or side lying, cool, calm, and collected. Most of the mamas were on their side. They were calm, relaxed, very good. Faces look normal and calm, very, very good, y'all. Absolutely. And how do you feel like that is the same or different from the way that we see birth as humans? Good. Fetal, yep, the fetal ejection reflex, they were chilling. They absolutely were chilling. How does that different or the same from how we give birth as humans or are taught to give birth as humans? It's not crowded. We are taught it's very medical. Yep, there was not one doctor, veterinarian around any of these animals. We are much more disturbed. Yep, it is much more natural. It is hard. We are taught to force it, more interventions. Absolutely. And then why do y'all think that is? Money. Yes, that's a part of it. We see many women on their backs. Absolutely. Remember that picture we just talked about? That's how the world sees birth. They don't see it the way that we see it. Society projects it that way. Tension, resistance, manipulation, fears. Yep. A lot of this stuff happens. And when we think about, we lost how birth is meant to be. Absolutely. So what I want you guys to keep in mind, and of course, again, you're not probably going to be in anybody's field. You're not going to be well, you could be in the water, I guess. Maybe not in the ocean, but I have heard of some women who've done that because that's a different way of giving birth as well. But We have completely lost the art of giving birth because we have medicalized this experience in many ways. And I want to be very clear, there are moments where medical attention is absolutely necessary for some women, and that is what's safest for them. But what you should have noticed about all of them, which most of you have picked up and called out, is that they were secluded, meaning they were isolated. It was a very private experience. It was very quiet. You didn't notice a lot of people around them, but in our experience and how we do birth as humans, it's almost like there has to be a crowd around, because if something happens, we need 10 people to deal with this issue. And that's not necessarily the case. There are moments where more medical attention and support is needed, but most of the time, that's not the case, even for some of us high risk mamas. We have to remember that if we're going to have a calm and confident birth, we have to be calm and confident, and our environment has to also reflect that. And so step 4 is creating a calm and peaceful experience or environment. Your environment and mindset matters. How we picture and set up our birthing environment does play a role in how we experience it. So when you think about birth, when you think about how you want your body to do these things, there was no forcing of any of those animals. The babies slid out. They slid out. That can only happen if you allow your body to get to a point where that's all that's left as an option is for your baby to slide out. This is called the fetal ejection reflex. One of you brought it up. I'm happy that you're educated. That's a start. Okay. But how do we trust our bodies to get there instead of somebody telling and coaching us that we need to start pushing because we're 10 centimeters? Nobody had to coach those animals on anything. So how do we create the environment to allow for that to be true? Well, I'm going to come back to Courtney and Patrick here. You have to create your calm. Does your environment support your birth? Birth is sacred, it's intimate, and it's private. And we just saw that happen with those animals. This is a picture of Patrick and Courtney and how they set up their space. What are the things that you're going to do to utilize within your birth to help you release oxytocin and endorphins that are necessary to help you feel calm, relaxed, safe, and secure? Those animals were calm, they were relaxed, and they obviously felt safe and secure in what was going on in their bodies. This is the same exact thing. For us, of course, most of us are going to be giving birth with people around, okay? Because that's, we're not animals. And so we do need some level of more, medical attention potentially in terms of just checking baby's heart rate and things like that. But it's also important that you keep in mind that there's other things that you can put into your environment and how you create this calm and peaceful space, like melatonin, dark lights, quiet, calming music, who's in the room. These are all things that you have to take into consideration. Research does suggest that you will have an increased chance of a vaginal birth with a more home-like environment for your birth. It offers more options for various body positions to move around. It allows you to be more relaxed and improve your well-being. And this can happen in and out of hospital. So I don't want to, just because we say home-like, that doesn't mean that you cannot create that sort of experience in the hospital. But it might be even more reason and more motivation for you to stay home as long as possible when you're laboring, so that you can ensure that you and your birth team have set up the environment that would support the ambiance that you're looking for. If you are desiring a peaceful birth experience, which I'm hoping most of you are, and that's why you're here, it might be a good idea to make sure that the people that that are in your environment do support that. And it might not be a good idea to welcome people into your birthing space that are anxious, rude, or negative. And this includes family and nurses. I have had many clients who have had to tell parents, moms, mother-in-laws, like, we're just going to do this ourselves because the energy that you're bringing into the room is not going to support me. I've also had people fire nurses because the nurse did not provide that level of support or energy that was going to help mama stay in the birth zone that she needed to be in. So in order for us to create a calm and peaceful environment for our labor to progress, oxytocin needs to be present. Oxytocin is the love hormone. If you haven't heard of that, it's also the shy hormone. So if we want this hormone to be present, which helps labor progress, what are the things that are going to help us feel loved, safe, and secure? And what are the things that we need to be true for it to feel also private, which is isolation, intimacy, privacy? So therefore, we need something to help this release. And so some of the things that you can do, we also saw Courtney and Patrick's environment. a dark room, a quiet room, a warm room, physical touch, soft music, water. Some of the things that may release endorphins and oxytocin for you is what you need to make sure that you're including in your birth plan. And then last but not least, all of this is going to lead us to achieving a comfortable birth. If we go back, choices, control, calm, confident, all of those things are going to help us come to a comfortable birth. And birth should be comfortable, okay? It should be manageable. How you prepare and manage this labor can lead to a pain-free or at least a manageable birth experience. A lot of you mentioned pain. Birth does not have to be painful, right? And when you're calm, which is what we just talked about, that's going to lead you to being more comfortable. This is another one of my clients. This is Lauren and Greg. Lauren actually is delivering a breech baby vaginally here in the hospital setting. She was amazing. We didn't show up to the hospital until she was about 9.5 centimeters. And she was very, very calm the entire time. Vaginal breech births are very taboo in our culture, but they are very safe if you have a provider who is comfortable and confident in doing that. Lauren was so calm during her birth, and it allowed her birth to be comfortable. Most of the nurses who were there had never seen a vaginal breech birth before. And this is her just chilling, her husband chilling. Nobody is uptight. Nobody is worried. Nobody is like fearful. We're trusting of the process. And that's what we do when we're calm and comfortable. But how do you reduce your risk of allowing fear to creep up into your birth so that you don't have a painful experience? Well, it's this thing called the fear, tension, pain cycle. And I want you to know that this is created because, and I talk about this in birth, because your fears will directly link to your physical experience. Your fears of childbirth can negatively impact your labor if you do not deal with them. If we allow these fears to show up in labor, it will cause your birth to be more painful. And why is that? Well, research found that women with severe fear of childbirth experience significantly more labor pain than women without the severe fear of childbirth. So for those of you who put pain in the chat, that pain is most likely going to be experienced because of the fears that you have and because of you actually allowing pain and the idea of pain to be present in your mind, which is causing you a level of fear, which will not allow you to labor calmly or comfortably. If you've ever been into a car accident before, the best way that I can describe this is, if you've ever been into a car accident before, one of two things probably happened. One, it was either you did not know that the car accident was about to happen and it just happened and you didn't realize you were in a car accident until you were in a car accident, or you saw the car coming, you knew that somebody was about to hit you, or you knew you were going to get into a car accident and your body responded accordingly. Well, here's the difference. Most of the time, when you are anticipating something happening that is causing you a level of fear, like a car accident, you see this car is about to hit you, or you see you're going to get into a car accident, that elicits fear for you, rightfully so. For most of us, we would be afraid or, respond the same way when it comes to seeing that somebody may hit us in a car. But that fear causes our bodies to tense up. And so we naturally start to grip our steering wheel, muscles get really tight, muscles get really tense. And then when the impact happens, we experience a lot more pain. And usually the accidents, or the people who are in car accidents that see it coming, they're the ones that tend to have more broken bones, more bruising, more injuries. But then you think about the people who did not see a car crash coming. Either you didn't know it was happening until you were in the car accident. Even drunk drivers, right? They are not aware and don't see those things coming a lot of times when those accidents happen. Well, because you're not seeing it coming, your body cannot respond to fear because it didn't know that the fear was even there. And because your body does not respond to fear, your body is less tense. It doesn't actually have any tension at all. And so in many situations, when you're in a car accident, your body doesn't tense up. You don't grip the steering wheel because you didn't even know it was happening until you were in the accident. And what happens is you experience less pain. A lot of the times that you are either in a car accident, you didn't realize it happened, or even unfortunately with drunk drivers, those people tend to walk away with less injuries, less bones broken, less pain, because their body just went with the flow and surrendered to what was happening. They didn't have a lot of tension because they didn't have fear. So when we think about this, when it comes to birth, the more fear that you have when it comes to pain or anticipating pain or the things that may come up in labor, that's going to naturally cause you to tense up. If you're like, oh, here's another contraction, oh, here's another surge, oh, here it comes, and you tense up your body, naturally you're going to feel more pain as a result of that. So if we can learn how to surrender, overcome our fears, that can help us reduce the amount of tension and pain that we actually feel in labor. So how do you actually give birth without pain? This is my client that I was telling you about, who had the 2-hour birth. This is the text that she sent me afterwards, but she said, 2 hours, thanks to you, I feel so empowered. It's the most beautiful experience ever. First time mama. She was a young mama as well. She trusted her body and she did not allow it to tense up. This mama shared, had a pain-free birth in September, and this was a vaginal birth after 3 C-sections. And she talked about having a pain-free birth. This mama, I was able to manage a pain-free birth mentally up to 7 centimeters. The endorphins, the oxytocin binded all fears. Christian hypnobirthing playlists were on the entire time. Even my nurse joined in listening at one point. Once I felt pain rushing in, it was time to push. 4 focused pushes and he was out. Y'all, these are not my words. These are not my experiences. These are theirs. I've been meaning to comment and let you know that your advice about pain management and focus literally got me through my labor alone. My third baby had 2 inductions, so never experienced spontaneous labor. But for an hour and 45 minutes, I was managing through each contraction, remembering what you said about focusing and that labor doesn't have to be painful. This mama ended up having her baby at home on accident. She said she called the ambulance and paramedics got there. Within 15 minutes, the baby was born in the bedroom. Totally unplanned that way, and a 2-hour labor. I couldn't have planned it better if I tried. In the 2 hours, I kept thinking that I'd go to the hospital later at some point, because labor should be agony and I wasn't in that much pain, so I could soldier it alone. Long way to say thank you and so much. Thank you so much. And that your content really goes in, I think that was a little typo, but she wasn't scared. She trusted her body. So thank you for the reminder. This mama also talked about how she also have a interview with her on my YouTube channel, so check this out as well. But long story short, this was her second baby, unmedicated, hospital, most empowering experience of her life. Her husband and her were laughing with tears of joy when the nurses laid Makai on her chest after only 5 hours of laboring. Husband couldn't believe what he just witnessed. My first birthing experience was incredibly traumatic, so we were convinced that I could never get through a natural birth. I've never been more happy to be wrong. I effing did it. Y'all, these are not my words. This is what giving birth pain-free looks like when you're calm, you're comfortable, you know your choices, and you can advocate for yourself. And then this is my twin mama, who I showed you guys earlier. She said, I learned so much from this course, breathing techniques to pain management, and most importantly, how to advocate for myself. I felt empowered and was completely in control over my birthing experiences. The nurses were confused by how at ease I was throughout my labor. I experienced no pain. I danced and recorded videos throughout labor. I was able to labor until 7 centimeters without an epidural. My birth was an amazing experience that I credit to this course. So even if you guys get medication or if you change your birth plan, that does not mean that your birth cannot be positive and confident. Let's review. When you understand your choices, it allows you to be in control of your birth. And when you're in control of your birth, it allows you to have confidence in your body. When you have confidence in your body, that allows you to create a calm and peaceful experience for your birth. And when that happens, you are able to achieve that comfortable birth. This is not a theory. I've showed you multiple stories of women who I've supported, who've gone through this program, and we've tested this time and time again. With my own birth and my clients, we've had proven results, even with the birth plans that have changed. I had a client who had to have a medical C-section for a medical reason. Her baby was breech and she did not want to have a vaginal birth breech, which is completely fine and her right. But I was there with her as she had her C-section, and she came out of it and was like, that was so beautiful, that was so empowering. You don't hear that about C-sections, but you can still have a positive birth even when things change. So even though some of these women were my one-to-one clients, most of them that I shared stories about were not. We worked very closely together during their pregnancies to prepare them and their partners to do it together, and it's worked. And I can confidently say that I have trained so many partners to be really the partner doulas, and they could probably go doula another mama if they wanted to, because they know so much. My methods to overcoming fear and anxiety are personal. They've worked for me because I have also dealt with anxiety most of my life. But it's also allowed me and so many of my clients who deal with the same things to have a calm, confident, and empowering birth that they dream of. And it's proven we can do it over and over and over again. And to this day, I'm following the same steps that I am taking all my clients through as I am expecting and preparing for my own birth. I don't just preach this, I practice this as well. And so it's something that if you take into action, like we talked about earlier, you can have this too. So if you are thinking, I'm ready, and where do I start? I just gave you the 5-step process to overcoming fear and anxiety for a calm and confident birth. But I'm sure you imagine this is just the tip of the iceberg, which it is. I'm just giving you the tip of it. There's so much more that we go into detail with when it comes to preparing for birth, because it does take work. And I want to give you the step-by-step process so that you can do this yourselves. So you have 2 options. You could do it yourself, like I did, and this was the end result of my first birthing experience, or you can follow a faster proven approach and kind of cut your work in half. So if you do decide to work with me, nothing is held back, no missing steps. I will give you the step-by-step to overcoming your fear, overwhelm, and anxiety, and I will hold your hand throughout the journey from pregnancy to postpartum as your virtual doula. I am on a mission, and I've said this so many times, but I want to help you write your own beautiful birth story and remove the overwhelm of so much information that's out there and give you the exact place to start and finish so that you can have an empowering, positive, and calm birth experience. And that is what my new Work Your Birth program includes. This is an updated version of this program that I have found to be the most successful for families. And I've done all the hard work for you because I know how much work it is. I know how much research is out there and how overwhelming it can be. So I wanted to provide you with the research and evidence-based information that you need to advocate for your options, your rights, all the things that we just talked about, asking the right questions, laboring with ease and intention, and then also making sure that your partners have the guidance and the tools that they need to best support you if you don't have a doula. And why does this even matter? Why am I doing this? The biggest thing that I see out there with birth prep is that, yes, there's so many courses out there, y'all. There's a billion courses that you can take, and you have to find the one that's the best fit for you. Each of them will teach you an aspect of the entire puzzle of preparing for birth. But in my opinion, this requires holistic, which in my definition of holistic means whole body preparation. This is not just physical, this is not just mental, this is not just spiritual. All of these things play a role, and your partner is usually left out of that equation. So a course on how to have a natural birth isn't going to be helpful if you don't know how to trust yourself to do it. So there's all these little pieces that have to play a role, but unfortunately, so many programs out there only talk about one piece of that puzzle. A hospital birth course, yes, those are there too, but it's probably not going to be helpful if you plan on having a physiological birth, which is what we just watched with animals. You're going to need more than that. You're going to need more than videos to prepare you, because this is a big moment in your life, and you're going to need someone most likely to help make sure that you are applying those lessons and that they're going to work for you the best way that they can. So I want you to have the best possible situation for your desired birth plan, because I've been through it, as y'all have heard before, both positive and negative. And I want you to know that I'm coming at you and teaching this to you with years of experience with clients and years of experience in my own birthing scenarios. So we've experimented, we've worked through all the things, and we have found the thing that works and not just what's trending on social media. So the better the fit for this program, the better the outcomes. So I am working to change the narrative of birth, and I don't just want any client in this program. I want the clients who want this sort of experience too. And so if you want in, here's how the process works. This program is for families who are desiring a positive, calm, and confident natural birth. If you desire for your partner to play that main support role, this is a perfect program for you because most of the women who I shared did not have a doula in person with them. This program is for people who desire to learn about birth from a different perspective and understand that investing in your preparation and not trying to figure it out yourself is probably the most effective and least stressful way to actually prepare for birth. And then, of course, this program is for people who are going to be taking action and implement it, not just listen and read it. So if it sounds like you are invited to book a call with me to see if you qualify to enroll in my Work Your Birth program. I have set aside the next 3 days of next week to talk to you and see if I can help you. Of course, before my baby arrives, because I probably will need to take a couple days before I take some more calls, but the call is 45 minutes, it is free. And the intention is really to understand where your pregnancy is right now, what your birth goals are, and based on your information and application, we'll see if we are a good fit to work together and if this program is a good fit for you. So this is a free discovery call and I invite you to apply for that. I only have a certain number of spots available just with my calendar. So if this is you, make sure that you put it on your to-do list to apply. I can only take a handful of calls a day because I am a team of one. So if this is you, put this link into your browser or your phone and go ahead and reserve a time for us to talk. I am going to go into questions now for those of you who are still with me. I'll put this link in the chat as well, but here's what I know. I wouldn't be here today talking to you if I didn't do this myself. So I want to make sure that you all really are prepared to have this calm, confident birth on Labor Day and moving into postpartum, because it doesn't just end when you have your baby. It goes into postpartum, and we want to set the tone for a positive postpartum experience as well. That being said, I would love to answer questions that you all have. And I will also put the link in the chat for you guys since I took it off the screen. Questions, put them in the chat. So investment for the course, that was the first question. I do go over this in my call with you. So we'll discuss it. There are some different options in terms of like paying in full, payment plan options. This is me being able to provide not only childbirth education services, but also my doula services for you indefinitely, because you will have lifetime access to the program and weekly coaching calls with me. So, we'll talk through what that looks like for your family. And if you do mention when you fill this out, the application out, if you do mention that you were part of the webinar, there will be a special rate for you since you joined and took your time to educate yourself. And it is all virtual, so you do not have to be in person. Question about placenta encapsulation. Yes, talk about this also in the program, but I did encapsulate my placenta in my second birthing experience and also plan to do that again this time. I absolutely recommend it. Is really helpful for making sure that your baby and you kind of replace some of the iron that you may have lost. Also is really helpful with mood stabilization and hormonal changes because your hormones will drop significantly after you have a baby. So in my experience, it's really helped me minimize my experience with postpartum depression because I did experience that with my first, and I felt like a completely different person after taking my placenta pills the second time around. So I highly encourage that. But I do also have a video about placenta encapsulation on my YouTube channel, so you can check that out as well. And then I go into detail with that in the program. Is this a program you would recommend if we still want a doula in the room during labor? Absolutely. I would say that my encouragement for you, if you haven't hired a doula yet, is to go through the program first and then make a decision as to whether or not you still feel the need to have somebody in person with you. Obviously, having a person in the room with you is a cherry on top, but so many of my families haven't really felt the need for that because their partners were so confident to play that role and did very well. But if you already have a doula and you feel like you just would like to have additional support, of course, this is a kind of a lifetime support program for you. So if you get pregnant again, we'll just start from the beginning with you. You can totally do that too. It's really kind of up to you and what you feel like is best for your birth team. Do we need to talk to you to hire you as a doula to participate? No. So this program is not for me to be in the room with you on the day of your birth. This is for me to prepare you and educate you to do this on your own. But I do have options for those of you who do want more support. So if that is you, just let me know. We can talk about that in our consultation. I just put a new link in there, y'all. Sorry if that one wasn't working. I've heard that you can't encapsulate your placenta if you had COVID while pregnant. That is not true. Whoever is encapsulating your placenta will kind of evaluate how COVID did impact your placenta. So if it did do a lot of damage to your placenta, then that person who is encapsulating your placenta would be very honest with you to say like, yeah, you're probably not going to get much out of this. But in most cases, that's not been what I have seen. I've had many mamas who've had COVID like at 37 weeks and still were able to encapsulate their placenta. So your placenta will look a little bit more calcified if you had COVID, but that's not always going to be the case. You can still attempt to encapsulate it and it should still be okay. How long do you recommend laboring at home after your water breaks? As long, and we talk about this in the program as well, but as long as your water is clear and odorless, you can labor at home really up to 24 to 48 hours. Obviously, labor may not begin right after your water breaks, but as long as your fluids, amniotic fluids, are clear and odorless, we're just letting our bodies start the process when it's ready to start the process. But for most of us, that will start within 24 hours. And you just have to keep there's other things that you want to keep into consideration, but usually hasn't been a problem for the clients who have had to labor at home because there were no signs of anything being off or dangerous or anything along those lines. Since you're about to give birth as well, will you plan to be able to conduct calls or taking away time? Okay, that's a great question. So being that this is baby number 3, the great thing about this program is that this is where I'm going to be spending most of my time and energy moving forward. So I do have one-to-one clients that I'm supporting in person in the fall, but because I've been very intentional about doing my coaching calls during the daytime when my other kids are at school, this will allow me to continue to do my coaching calls during the week. The only time, and I've already told my families this, if you do join the program, the only time that we would probably have to skip a call or just reschedule it for a different day that week would be if I'm in labor at the time of our call, which all of you in the program would know that I was in labor. And if like I'm in labor on the same day as the coaching call, we'll either reschedule it for a different day that week, or I'll have one of my backups and trusted and reliable doula come on and just sit in my place and answer the questions for you guys. But I don't plan on taking time away from this because this is what fills me up. And one of the things that I teach you about postpartum, because this program goes through postpartum and breastfeeding prep as well, is that you need to do things for yourself that fill you up. And this is what fills me up. So yes. How early do you recommend someone signing up for your course? I would say second trimester is ideal. Third trimester is fine as well. Just, you may have to go through the material a little bit faster if you're later in your third trimester, but I've had women, as you could see, start with me 34 weeks, 30 weeks, and be completely fine. So it just really depends on your learning style. Is there a company you recommend for encapsulation? Find a local person. That would be my recommendation first. Try to find somebody local to your area so you can get it back faster. But if not, Mommy Made, I think that's what it's called, Mommy Made encapsulation. She's out of California, and I've had some clients who didn't have people in their areas they used her. So she'll send you all the things that you need to actually ship your placenta on ice. And then she'll send you back the pills. Is this program different from your Teachable course? First time mom, and I know that the Teachable mentions VBAC. I do have a VBAC program just for people who want to start to, get an intro level prep for VBACs, but this program is different than that. This program is a very comprehensive program. You probably won't see it. It's not listed there because this is very much application based. And not anybody can just sign up for it because it is based on fit. And since I am working very closely and intimately with your family, it's not just something that you can sign up for. So that's why you don't see it on there. But I do house all of my materials on Teachable, but you won't be able to see that until after you get accepted into the program based on our call. Is it normal for contractions to start or stop or slow? Is there anything I can do to keep them coming? If you are having start and stop contractions, that's most likely prodromal labor. And that is a sign that your baby could be in a funky position. And so you'll want to do some different position changes, inversions. We talk all about this in the program, hydration, rest, different things that you may need to do, Miles circuit to kind of get some routine and consistency. But usually if they're start and stop, that's a sign that baby's in a little bit of a funky position, and we need to get them into a better position to keep them going and keep labor progressing. I think I answered that when we should take the course. I would definitely say 20 weeks plus. If you are an overachiever, you can obviously start with me sooner and we'll have more time together. But I would say, 20 weeks moving forward would be a good time to start because it'll give you more time to just really practice and apply the material and give us more time to really work together and me coach you through that throughout your pregnancy in between your prenatal appointments and preparing you for all the upcoming tests and things like that. What do you recommend mamas wear to labor comfortably in? Are pajamas or robe appropriate? Yes, well, the first time I was in the hospital and I used their robe, which was not comfortable at all, because obviously the whole backside is out and I just didn't like that. The second time I labored in a maxi dress, like a loose maxi dress, which was very comfortable for me because it had some slits and it was really loose. So it was easy for my midwives to just kind of like lift it up and listen to baby's heart rate. This time, I'm planning on laboring in some pajamas, a shorts and shirt pajamas set that is just really comfortable for me. But I also have a lot of robes on deck just in case, because it's just more access and it's just easier for you to not have to take anything off and them still be able to listen to baby whenever. So really whatever you're comfortable in. I probably wouldn't labor in any sort of like leggings or pants because that's just much more difficult to kind of like lift up and take down. But honestly, I've seen a lot of women just labor in t-shirts. I've seen a lot of women labor with no clothes on. So, I got to that point at one point in my second labor where I was just not clothed. And that was what was most comfortable for me. And a lot of my clients are like that too. So it really kind of just depends, but pajamas and robes are absolutely appropriate. Any other questions, y'all? Would you recommend asking them to check baby station while checking dilation since it's more accurate? They are checking the station. If you do decide to get vaginal exams, they are checking and tracking the dilation and station. They're just only going to share the dilation because most people don't know what station is. So if you are going to get cervical exams, then you just need to ask them what station baby is at, and they will tell you, because that's information that they're already checking for as well. All right, y'all, if there's no more questions, I hope this link that I put in the chat worked this time. Why do they push vaginal exams so hard? Because they think that that's a way to evaluate how much longer you're going to be in labor and if you're progressing or not. Because if you're not, then that's easier for them to say that there's a failure to progress. Most times that's not the case. Sometimes vaginal exams are helpful, but most of the time they're not, especially if you're laboring normally and things are progressing. I personally do not like them, but it's really up to you. Sometimes people want to know that information, but I think that it sometimes can cause labor to slow up or stall a little bit because we're thinking about a number versus what our bodies are telling us. How long is the course? So the program itself will take anywhere between, depending on how quickly you go. If you just want to do it like a couple of hours a week, then it would take you about 4 to 6 weeks. 4 weeks of the 6 weeks is all birth prep. And then the remaining 2 to 3 weeks or so are all postpartum prep and breastfeeding and baby prep. So it really kind of just depends. I've had people finish it in like a week or two, but they're just kind of like going hard and watching a lot of videos every day. But if that's you and you're at the final stages, you can absolutely kind of fast track the process for you and do some of the postpartum videos when you get to the postpartum. But I would say give yourself an average of 30 days or so, 4 weeks, just to do it at a comfortable pace, to be able to really practice, apply, and talk through it with your partner. What station are you right now? Because I'm still a -3 at 38 weeks. I don't know because I'm not getting any exams. From the last appointment that I had, I know my baby is floating because they could feel, externally that my baby was still floating and not engaged in the pelvis, but I'm not getting, my plan is again to not get any cervical exams. So I won't know right now what station my baby is at until I go into labor, because if you watch that video on my YouTube channel, you can tell what station your baby's in based on how your body is moving. But because I'm not in labor right now, that's not something that I can evaluate, nor do I care to evaluate it, because baby's going to come when he wants to come. And that's just going to be how we do it. But my doula and my husband know how to look at my body to know what station my baby is in. And that will be how they guide me to do different types of movements. What prenatal vitamins do you recommend if larger pills are not your thing? There are some gummies out there that I have some that I know of that women in the program are taking. I think they were called Smarty Pants, maybe, I think is maybe what they're called. I take Rainbow Light, and those are kind of large pills, but I would say gummies. And then I think Mary Ruth Organic, I think she may have a liquid option as well. So look that up, because I know she just started offering prenatal options and probiotics as well. So I think she may have a liquid option if you don't like pills. All right. Any other questions? Okay, y'all. Well, I see some of the folks in my program in the call right now. So hello. So good to see y'all's faces. Well, I don't see your face, but I see your name. I hope you'll have a phenomenal weekend, and I hope this is helpful. If you do not get a chance, or if the calendar fills up and you're still looking for a space to get a call, email me and we can see if we can work out a time to chat. But remember, I am on baby watch, so I want to be able to get you all the access to all the program material soon as possible. So go ahead and schedule that call with me as soon as you can. And if you have any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, you guys have a phenomenal weekend, and thank you for joining me. I hope this was helpful. Bye.